Hi, this is Mary from the Daily Sew. In my last video, we went over how to check if the seams of your pattern are true, if they're the same length. Well, what happens if they're not true or they're uneven? How do you fix this? In this video, I'm going to show you step by step how to fix uneven seams, and not just if one's a little longer or a little shorter, but when you do an alteration to a pattern like adding length, how to make those seams true, because they do get knocked off when you add length or take length off a pattern. So if you're ready, let's go. All right, first I have my back bodice piece and my front bodice piece, and I've drawn in the seam allowance here on the shoulder seam. Now my shoulder seam I made off on purpose, and you can tell by you line up the seam line starting with the notches, and you can see that my back bodice piece is a lot longer than my front bodice piece at both edges, the neck edge and the arm's eye edge. So how do I fix that? Do I add all of the difference onto the shorter edge? Do I subtract it all off the longer edge? And if I'm adding or subtracting, do I take it off or add it all onto one side or the other? Well, here's how you fix this. Again, line up that seam line starting at the notch. And you're going to visually split the difference. So I'm just going to make a mark in between the difference of the length there, where it's overhanging. And I'm going to transfer this to the other pattern piece. With the straight or curved edge, whatever fits your seam, you're going to blend from that mark into the original seam line. And on any edge that's off. Now, both edges don't have to be off, but in this example they are. And of course you're going to do it to the other pattern piece that corresponds. Just blend it right in. And of course, you will also have to change your seam allowance to reflect any changes you've made to the seam line. Seams will also need to be trued after altering, especially any slash and spread alterations like adding length or shortening a pattern. If we were to add length or shorten this bodice, our neck seam and our arm's eye seam will really need to be trued. Spreading a pattern is really gonna throw a seam off unless it's a straight seam. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to draw a reference mark perpendicular to our line that we're folding on or we're slashing. And fold out the length that you don't need. And even folding out a little bit of length, you're gonna see how that neckline really gets thrown off. So tape down your fold, and again, to fix this, to true it, we are simply going to split the difference there and then find a nice curve to blend the difference into the original seam line. So I'm adding to the upper seam line and I'm taking a little bit out of the lower seam line. But in the end, I have a nice smooth line. Now to lengthen the pattern, same idea, put that reference mark perpendicular to your slash line, slash your pattern. Add the paper to your pattern to add your length. And I'll tell you, Scotch Magic tape is the best. You can write on it. Mark how much length you need to add. Bring down that reference mark. And line up the other part of your pattern. Having the two reference marks really makes it great. You know you're not off at all. But that neckline is really off. But again, I'm simply going to split the difference and add it into and take it out of the original seam allowance above and below that difference. And you can see, nice smooth line. And of course, you want to change that seam allowance to reflect any changes you made to the seam line. And I'm just going to cut it here so you can see, because there's so many lines going on, it's a little confusing. And you would change the arm eye as well if it needed to be fixed. And it does. So that is how you true a seam, whether it's too long and too short and not matching up, or if you've done an alteration and thrown it off. So now you know. You're going to always split the difference and blend and smooth that new seam line into the original seam line. Hope you found this video helpful, and if you did, why not subscribe? Thank you so much for watching. Goodbye. See you next time.